Hi, Jeff at Tone. How's it going today? Say, if you're somebody like me who really enjoys vintage audio, I've got something here that I'd really like to share with you that I've been using to very good effect. Now, you may remember about a year ago, Vera-Fi came out with a product called the Swiss Digital Fuse Box. Now, what the Infinity Fuse does is it builds on the technology and it builds on the engineering that they learned developing that product. The only shortcoming of the Swiss Digital Fuse Box, it had to be preset for the load of whatever device you were using it with. So that kind of, if you switch gear around and stuff, it kind of made things a little bit inconvenient. But the Infinity Fuse changes all of that. As you can see, there's some dip switches down here. This lets you custom set the amperage requirement to that of your device. Now, this only has a maximum current draw of 10 amps, but that's going to cover you on almost all vintage gear. Okay, so what is it? What does it do? What does it cost? And why do you want one? Well, the Infinity Fuse takes the place of the fuse in your amplifier or preamp or DAC or whatever. And while I'm talking about it here in the context of a vintage hi-fi system, you can use this with just about anything as long as you don't exceed the 10 amp maximum load of this. However, the reason I really like the Infinity Fuse for vintage gear, you notice how expensive some of this stuff is. I mean, I saw something on the web the other day where somebody was talking about buying receivers for $15 at garage sales. I'm old. I mean, I'm really old, and I don't remember those days, but there used to be a lot better deals. I mean, we're at the point now where, something like a Marantz 2270 or that Pioneer amp that was in front of me when I opened the clip, these are $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 pieces of gear nowadays. I mean, Nakamichi Dragons are going for $5,000 to $10,000. I mean, it's crazy. But the bottom line is, you want to protect that gear because it's 30, 40, 50, sometimes 60 years old. And when you turn the power on, most of those older pieces of gear don't have super sophisticated power supplies. So, the current rushes right in. That's always something that can do damage to your power supply, capacitors, to, subtle parts. The sudden current thing is never good for vintage gear. I mean, it's not good for new gear, but it's never good for vintage gear. And again, you can't always get your Marantz 2270 fixed tomorrow like you can something now. I mean, critical parts are still available for a lot of these things, but as the cost goes up, as it gets harder and harder to find people that can work on these pieces of gear, I think we can all agree that we'd really like to take care of those treasured components as much as we can. And this really helps you do that. Yeah, it's $400, okay? But again, what are you going to plug your $10,000 Nakamichi Dragon into? It's what I'm using, because one bad trip to the repair shop and you're going to be out way more than $400. I like the security of knowing that that gear is protected and it's not going to blow up. How do you use it? Easy. You plug a power cord into the back, into your AC outlet, plug your device into the outlet. And again, you go on the dip switches, you set it for the type of fuse you need, the type of fuse, slow or fast acting, and the current draw. And once you set that, set it and forget it, and you're done. Now, again, I've used Infinity Fuse with a couple of my other modern components, again, to excellent result. But this is something for all of you out there that really love vintage hi-fi. I think this is a really good way, because another thing that it does that I didn't mention, in addition to its far superior fusing capability, it brings the current up slow. It's like a soft turn on. And a lot of, a lot of today's modern gear, especially a lot of tube gear, already has that functionality built into it. But the older gear, when you flip the power switch, boom, all that current spikes in. So this really does add a level of sophistication to a vintage piece of gear with no downside. So anyway, that's it for today. But again, whether you've got new or old gear, but especially if you're a vintage gear collector, this is something that I highly suggest that you add to your system. I think you'll be glad you did. Thanks for stopping by.